is it going, everybody? My name's Avid, and welcome to The Dark Gate. Oh, and also, this is Avid Adventures Episode 9. So if you're coming from my last episode, then you know we are building another Minecraft boss. And I could not think of a better boss entrance than this beautiful underground cathedral. And while there is still a lot of work to do with the grounds and smoothing out the walls to not make this just one giant cube room, and of course the interior, which, oh, that is daunting to think about. We gotta clean the junk off of the floor here. Don't wanna have any of that. And while there is still a lot of work left to do, I am so proud of how we kicked off this episode with this absolutely mega build. So with this mega build completed, I want to think about what to do with this entrance courtyard. Yes, of course, I want to spruce it up with some dead trees using basalt pillars and having these kind of dead branches coming off of them and maybe like a fountain over there. But I also want to have a puzzle that players need to solve in order to actually open the gate to the boss fight itself. And what I'm thinking is this puzzle teaches players a mechanic that they then have to later use in the boss fight. And I'm taking a lot of inspiration from Terraria here, which has a lot of similarities with Minecraft. You mine and you craft things, but it also has this potion called the Spelunkers Potion. And the way it works is when you drink this potion, the ores in the walls glow and you are able to mine them extremely efficiently. Now here what I do is it's not the same concept. There is no way I can one-to-one implement that in Minecraft, but what I've done here is this poor magma cube is summoned in exactly on top of a block and he has the glowing effect. So yeah, this is gonna take some refining, obviously, but I think this is the way that we can kind of achieve the Spelunkers Potion in Minecraft. Okay, so I have partially completed the first part of our plan here, which was to spruce up the courtyard, as well as do something with our walls to make it not look like a giant cube room. Now, I went with a completely different approach. I was going to do a bunch of dead trees and kind of make this a very desolate looking place, but I thought, how cool would it be if we had this underground grove, this little secret hideaway where then you enter the Dark Gate, and it just kind of juxtaposes against that gate in such a beautiful way. And the way the black concrete just kind of sinks the walls away and the gate and the cathedral itself just pops out with this menacing beauty. I love it. I'm so happy with how it turned out. So the next thing that I want to do is build out the mechanics for this puzzle. So I think we need to start planning out on the surface what that's going to look like. And since these mechanics are going to be used in our boss fight, it's absolutely essential that they are perfect. So I have broken it down into 3 different problems that we need to solve in order to make sure that these mechanics are solid. The first thing I want to do is I want this potion to be created by throwing items into a cauldron. And when all of the items are in the cauldron, we're going to do some kind of particle effect where there's like a spray of red cloud particles and stuff, I don't know, something like that. And I want players to really have this cool experience of creating this really special Spelunkers Potion. Then, of course, we are going to give that potion to the player, and when they drink it, it's going to make ores all over the chamber down below glow. And when players go and break all of those ores, it's then going to lower this massive gate that is inside of that dark cathedral down below. And I want this gate to feel like it's really heavy, like it's gonna fall like whoosh. And oh, we gotta find the right sound effects for that too. So I think the first thing we need to do is start on the potion. So I am here in Minecraft Bedrock, and I'm not going to tell you how long it took me to get my skin in here. It was kind of embarrassing. But the reason I'm in Bedrock is 1, because I know a lot of you guys actually play Bedrock, and 2, is I want to show you yet another feature I am super jealous of in Bedrock. And of course, that feature has to do with cauldrons. In Minecraft Java, you can fill a cauldron with water, and you can pull little bits of that water out using glass bottles. Really nice and convenient for potion making, I guess, but it's really not that important of a feature. However, in Bedrock, things get a little fancier. So you can actually dye the water of a cauldron if you right-click on it, and look at that! It's colored water. We don't have anything like this in Java. And then when you take a leather tunic, for instance, you can dye it the color of the water that you made. And you can get really fancy and change and mix and match colors here. And if you wanted to turn the leather tunic back to its original color, you just soak it in regular water, and that is just so cool. But also, and this is what I'm most jealous of, you can fill cauldrons with actual potions. And then the potion water itself can be used to fill more bottles of that potion. You can just pull it out. I mean, that's exactly what a cauldron should be able to do. So I'm going to take a ton of inspiration from Bedrock here and try my hardest to implement something like this in Java. Let's give it a shot. And actually, you know what? I think we can do better in Minecraft Java with a couple of commands that I think reimagines potion making in Minecraft. So if I were to rebuild potion making, I would get rid of the brewing stand and have all potions made inside of cauldrons. I mean, after all, that's kind of what a cauldron is used for. So what I would do is I would require a campfire to be lit beneath a cauldron in order to activate that cauldron for potion making. And maybe depending on the campfire that's lit, that would change the types of potions that you can make in it. And then I would have players throw items into the cauldron, and the cauldron would fill up with a certain color in order to indicate that the potion is at a certain state. And for our potion of the Ore Seeker, we have 3 ingredients. The Belias root, which we've already thrown in. Then we need to throw in a Lamentis flower, which then would change the color of the cauldron yet again. Ooh, that looks so good. And then finally, it's a drop of Dwarven blood, which in our case, we're going to represent with a little bit of rotten flesh. That goes in like that. And then finally, when all of the ingredients are in, we probably will just detect that and do something like this. Yeah. And then players have the potion of the Ore Seeker. We can try to get fancy with glass bottles. We'll have to figure out how to do that. But that is the general idea of how I want this potion to be brewed. So in order to make this custom potion brewing minigame, we need to break this problem down into the 5 steps that we outlined up above. Not only that, but we need to make a state machine where players complete one step in the puzzle and it moves the cauldron into the next state until finally the potion is given to the player. So the very first state here is to check to see if the campfire is lit. And in order to do that, it's actually pretty simple. We use the execute if block is a soul campfire and it is lit. And we have that on a repeat command block, always active. So you notice here this comparator is low, but then if I come over here and turn on the campfire, there is our very first state. And the next step here, you'll notice I actually added 2 new states to our state machine. Players are going to actually have to add water to the cauldron as a part of the brewing minigame. This command block here is just checking to see if the cauldron is a water cauldron. So you'll notice here, once I fill it up, that signal goes on. And we also and together the output of this repeat command block with the signal that powers that repeat command block. Basically, this allows us to power repeat command blocks and not have to deal with any logic weirdness that comes with when they are powered off. All right, so I have our next state completed here. And of course, that state is to throw the Belias root into the cauldron. We have to detect that. And we also have to make sure that the cauldron is filled with water and the campfire is lit beneath it. So things are definitely getting a little complicated, but nothing we can't handle, I hope. So all I've done here is I've compacted our AND gate that we had before into a vertical AND gate, and it just saves a little bit of space. And the reason I did this is because I'm trying to fit this entire function into a chunk, into one chunk. And so that's why I have chunk borders shown here. And I just want to be really careful with crossing chunk boundaries with redstone and command blocks, especially when players get teleported in and out of this area. The chunk boundaries tend to cause a lot of issues with my command block contraptions, so definitely be careful of that in your builds. But the way this works is pretty simple. So we first check to see if the fire is lit, and there that redstone signal goes high. And then we check to see if a water bucket is filled in the cauldron, and now that signal goes high. And then the output goes to this turn on state 1 command block. And what that does is it sets the gold block that was here to a redstone block, which then powers 3 repeating command blocks. The first one I'll go over is the particle effect that you see right now. So we are trying to color the water just like Bedrock. It's not perfect, but I think it looks pretty cool. Then the other two command blocks here, one is checking to see if the Belias root is thrown into the cauldron. Then the other command block does almost the same thing. It checks to see if there's an item in there that is not the Belias root. So we check to see if there's an item, but we use this little exclamation point to check to see if it is not the Belias root. If the item is in the cauldron, then we play a sound, we show some particles, and we unset state 1. If the player enters the wrong item into the cauldron, it calls this fail function. All it does is it resets the cauldron. So really quickly, let's just see that. So I'll throw an empty bucket in there. And right now, nothing happens. Don't worry, we are gonna punish players for putting the wrong item into the cauldron. But all we have to do right now is relight some things, put water in there. Now, if I throw in the Belias root, ooh, yeah, so we get a little lava sizzle sound. We get those soul particles that come out. And now we have to do all of the other items, get our punishment mechanic in place. But we are getting there. We're really close, so I'll come right back when I have those other pieces done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are completely done with our custom potion. So all I have done here is I have cloned our initial state into 2 more locations. That's because there are 2 more ingredients that need to go into the cauldron. Then I have a 4th state here, which actually gives the potion to the player. And I did something a little clever with how that actually works. So instead of just describing what is going on here, I'm just gonna show you exactly all of the steps, and we're gonna just kind of go through the potion making process. So first step, get everything lit. Then we throw in, ooh, and I love that effect there. Then we throw in the next ingredient. Ooh, yeah, and notice the particles actually change ever so slightly to that bright pink, and that's kind of fun. Then we throw in the flesh, and oh, and now we have this dark red water, gonna mix with the regular water. And then finally, we are watching to see if I have a water bottle in my inventory. And if I do, we replace it really quickly with the potion of the Ore Seeker. It almost works like Bedrock, where we can pull potions out of the cauldron. Then finally, I'm using this very undocumented feature in the NBT selector, where I can detect if a player within a distance of 10 blocks for now has an active effect. And so in this case, I'm using ID number 27, and that is called Bad Luck. And so when I drink this potion here, boom, that turns on, and that is going to then activate our magma cube glowing effect, which is the very next thing we'll actually be working on. But before we do that, I think we need to actually build out the Dark Gate itself. So, without further ado, let's go! The Dark Gate lives. Now, you probably saw in the time lapse, we also built out these spiral staircases that go all the way up both sides of the towers here. You absolutely get a sense of scale when you are on the top of these towers looking down at the grove. These things are absolutely massive. Now, I have plans for the tops of both of these towers. They are actually going to be integral in solving the puzzle to create the potion. So one of these towers is going to have a book that is going to teach the player how to correctly create the potion. That's probably going to be in this one. And then the other tower is actually going to have a jail cell where a long-lost dwarf lay, and we'll put some lore in there. But basically, this is how the players are going to get the dwarf in flesh. This isn't going to be a bright and happy quest. We'll have to make one of those eventually. And then, of course, down below, we are going to have the Belias root and the Lamentis flowers scattered about this grove. I think it makes sense for them to just be growing naturally somewhere around here. And then, of course, we have to move our cauldron from down below to maybe we'll put it up with the book that teaches players how to make the potion. And finally, I want to make these weights on either side of the gate that kind of hold it closed. And when the player drinks the potion, it's going to highlight the blocks that hold together the chains of these weights. And what I'm thinking, I think this is going to be so cool, by the way. What I'm thinking is players will shoot the weights with a specific arrow. We're going to make something like a mining arrow that when you hit an ore with it, it'll actually destroy the ore, maybe like silk touch it or something like that. And so then the ore will get destroyed and this weight is gonna come crashing down to the floor. I think I know exactly how to do that. And when it hits the floor, it's gonna make this big like smoke and there's gonna be this awesome sound. Yeah, this is gonna be really cool. I think I have the mining arrow totally fleshed out and it only took a handful of commands. Yeah, I'm using some technology that I developed in my 10 super weapons video, which you guys should totally check out. But essentially, we can detect when an arrow of a certain tip color is in the ground. The command for that is super simple. It's just right here. You check to see if there's an entity with that color in the ground. And then what we need to do is we need to search all around that arrow to find a block that can be broken by an iron tool. So that way we can actually use this arrow on iron blocks, diamond blocks, emeralds, gold, a whole bunch of types of blocks. And so let's just see this in action here. If I shoot that right at the block, boom! It actually drops the loot from that block. And yeah, that's all it is. But I have something really cool to show you when I was testing this arrow out. Okay, so I have a dispenser at the top of this pillar of diamond ore, and if I just fire that dispenser with one of the arrows in it, watch this. It's just falling down and down and down through the diamond ore blocks. This is so cool. It's like a drill. It's like an automated drill that just, oh my gosh, and there's experience and diamonds everywhere. And while that is super cool, I actually want to show you what I intended to use the mining arrow for. So if I can just get a good shot, yes, there it goes. Boom! So it's a little laggy because we're on a multiplayer server, but otherwise, yeah, that is the exact effect that I'm trying to achieve. How cool is that? And now with both of them hooked up and no players online, I think it should look a little better. Yeah, perfect. Not nearly as laggy, and I love that so much. That's so cool. Oh man. Okay, now we gotta get it so that the door falls down when these two weights are dropped to the ground. But before we do that, we need to tackle the glow effect. And as it turns out, a magma cube that fits the size of an ore block, unfortunately, prevents the arrow. Look, it gets shot back at me because he's invulnerable. Prevents the arrow from actually sticking in the ore block. Shoot. Okay. So I think I need to find something that's slightly smaller than the ore block. So it turns out when you summon in a shulker with invisibility, the shell is invisible, but the little shulker inside... That is so cursed looking. And as it turns out, the shulker is a little too large as well. And believe it or not, even the smallest of slimes repels arrows, even though its hitbox isn't actually on the outside of this ore block. I don't know what we're gonna do. Attempt number 2 is to try to use a piercing crossbow and also to make the slime not invulnerable, but just have a bunch of health. And that kind of works, but sometimes it just doesn't. So I don't usually toot my own horn, but you guys remember that massive command block stack for the mining arrow? Yeah, this monstrosity right here. Yeah, so not only did I reduce it to just these 2 blocks, but I have also completely solved our slime problem. Watch this. We did it! But Avid, how does it work? Well, I'll tell you how it works. So our slime buddy has a boatload of health, and it'll take about an hour for him to suffocate in that block, so we probably have plenty of time. And what I've done is I've applied the bad luck 2 effect to the mining arrow. And so when we hit the slime with the bad luck 2 effect, we use the same technology that we used down below to detect if there is a slime with an active effect of 27. And if there is, then we set the block that the slime is at to air and we destroy it, and then we teleport that slime out of the world. It's pretty straightforward and so elegant in my opinion. And with that effect working flawlessly, we can say the glow effect is done. And so now there's only one thing left, the gate. So the effect I'm going for is I want all of the blocks behind that red nether brick to fall into the ground. And the problem with that is that would mean I'd have to code in over 360 falling block commands. That would take me ages, right? I mean, just look at how many commands it took to make the weights fall. I had to painstakingly code every block in these weights into a falling block command, and that took me nearly 30 minutes. But maybe there's a smarter way. I mean, after all, there are only 3 different types of blocks in this door. So in theory, if we associated a falling block command with each of the 3 types of blocks, and then we just kind of laid out the commands alongside a cloned version of this door, we should be able to really easily create the falling version of this door. And oh my gosh, you guys, this might actually work. And there's the last one, and what have I done? Added some particle effects and a little bit of sound design, and I guess let's just wing it. Oh! What? That was sick! Shooting my horn twice in one episode. We're setting all kinds of records today. The question now is what lies beyond the dark gate? And that question will certainly be answered in the next episode. If you guys liked this content, I would absolutely appreciate if you left a like down below. It helps out the channel a whole lot. And if you want to see more of this content in the future, I highly encourage subscribing, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye!